Welcome to TomoNews. All the top medical horror stories and other ickiness.
A Korean beauty addicted to cosmetic surgery horribly disfigured her face after injecting cooking oil into her skin when plastic surgeons refused to continue treating her. Former model Hang Mioku underwent her first round of plastic surgery at age 28. She later moved to Japan to pursue her career, but developed a dangerous addiction to cosmetic silicone injections, which bloated her face. Concerned with the ugly results and a possible mental illness, doctors refused to keep treating her. Hang returned to Korea and bought silicone on the black market, injecting it herself. In desperation, she began injecting cooking oil, leaving her face grotesquely bloated. Hang was featured on Korean TV, and money from viewers poured in to pay for surgery to correct the damage. But after more than 10 operations, her parents still have trouble recognizing her, even calling her standing fan because of the freakish head which sits atop her tiny frame.
Alternative medicine leaves man with inch-wide hole in his head. There are all kinds of different types of alternative medicine, but with black salve ointment, well, you've apparently got to be a bit more careful, or it might just drill a hole into your head. A 55-year-old Australian man entered a Brisbane hospital after applying black salve to treat skin cancer. The ointment is made from black root, which contains sanguinarine and is typically mixed with zinc chloride, combining to create a sweet-smelling but corrosive ointment. Applied topically, it's often used to treat conditions as diverse as moles, scars, and even skin cancer. The ointment can destroy skin tissue, leaving conspicuous black scars, which later fall off. The man had reportedly been applying the salve for 4 months. By the time he finally looked for good old-fashioned regular medical care, he had been using a strong narcotic analgesic to dull the pain. Yup, it's probably a good idea to seek professional help before that dark spot on your head turns into a hole the size of a wallaby's nut. Black salve ointment has been a popular method to treat skin lesions since early last century, but has been listed as a 100% bogus treatment method for cancer by the US FDA and has been condemned by Aussie authorities since 2012. Doctors at Princess Alexandra Emergency Department initially thought the poor man would need an operation, but instead sent him home for self-treatment with a wound management strategy. Don't worry though, folks, everything turned out just fine. The wound reportedly fully healed in just 3 months.
Teenager found brother's tooth stuck inside hand after punch. A man who went to the hospital with a swollen fist was found to have an entire tooth embedded in his hand that he had no idea was there. The 19-year-old said that his hand accidentally connected with his brother's face the night before, but he didn't know that his brother had lost a tooth. The man noticed the cut on his hand, which he rinsed off in the sink before going to bed. He woke up the next day in pain and his hand severely swollen. He went to the hospital where he was diagnosed with an infected human bite wound and ordered to have a hand x-ray. That's when they discovered the brother's lateral incisor embedded in his hand. The wound was infected, so he was taken in for surgery, during which the tooth was removed. The teenager was discharged 2 days later and is now recovering well.
Miss Bum Bum's booty goes boom boom! Brazilian chicas are already known for their dazzling derrieres, so it's no surprise that there be a contest to see who has the best bootay in Brazil and crown Miss Bum Bum. Like any other contest, though, contestants have been stacking the deck getting implants to make up for their lack of back. 27-year-old Andressa Urach was one such contestant and finished second in 2012's finals. Her stunning brown round would set any man and some ladies within fapping distance on fire. However, she developed a problem with the hydrogel implants that made up her curvature. Her body was rejecting the implants and causing the tissues in her leg to rot. Her doctors even felt they'd need to amputate her left leg to prevent it from spreading. But after spending a month in the hospital, she seems to be coming along just fine. She's had several cosmetic surgeries over her career, but now considers herself a changed woman after her ass-splosion.
Lungfish removal surgery, mud fishing gone wrong. Warning, the following video contains graphic images that may discourage you from shoving fish into your anus. This is shocking footage from Londrina Hospital in Parana, Brazil. Brace yourself. Now what the heck did they just pull out of that guy? This is a South American lungfish, also known as an American mudfish. And this is what can happen if you decide to stick a mudfish in your mud hole. Surgery was required to remove the lungfish from the man's bowels after the sexual deviant stuffed the live fish into his chocolate starfish. The fish was alive upon removal, but had to be euthanized. The nurses appear to be equally grossed out and entertained as they capture the event on camera. Now, if anyone asks you to go mud fishing, you can't say we didn't warn you.
Doctor removes maggot infestation from guy's ear. A nearly 5-minute long video of an Indian doctor removing a whole lot of maggots from some patient's ear has been crawling around the internet since May, but has just recently wiggled its way mainstream. An unidentified young man visited a doctor in Faizabad, India, complaining of a persistent buzzing in his ear. Dr. Vikram Yadav discovered the patient was suffering from oromyiasis, a condition where fly larvae infest a person's nose or ears. While removing the live maggots from the young man's ear, the doctor was kind enough to record a video too. Oromyiasis is fairly common in tropical and subtropical regions, usually affecting children under 10 or the elderly. The larvae feed off the flesh in the patient's ear canal, and if left untreated, the maggots can eventually burrow into the brain and kill the patient. The doctor suggests preventative measures if you notice a lot of flies before bed. He recommends putting some cloth over your face so the flies can't enter any orifices and lay their eggs.
Tooth grows inside man's nose. A Saudi man learned that his health problems were related to an extremely off-track tooth. The 22-year-old went to a doctor after getting nosebleeds about twice a month for 3 years. Upon inspection, the doctor noticed an ivory white mass in the patient's nasal cavity. The mass was determined to be a mesiodens, the most common type of supernumerary tooth. Often found near incisor teeth, about a third of mesiodentes actually develop upside down, according to John Hellstein at the University of Iowa. In some cases, the errant tooth may even protrude into the nasal cavity. Doctors put the patient under general anesthesia and removed the 1 centimeter long tooth from his nose. 3 months later, the nosebleed stopped and the patient was completely healed. Hyperdontia, the condition of having extra teeth, affects less than 1% of all people.
Former fattest man in the world loses 60 pounds of skin. Losing 60 pounds doesn't sound all that impressive when you're talking about a person who used to weigh 980 pounds, until you realize that Paul Jonathan Mason of Ipswich, England, just lost 60 pounds of skin. Paul started packing on the pounds in his 20s after his father passed away, and he just kept going until he gained the title of world's fattest man. The change was so dramatic that in 2002, firefighters had to demolish the front of his house to get him to the hospital for a hernia operation. It took 10 years, but in 2010, the National Health Service finally approved his gastric bypass surgery. He lost about 600 pounds thanks to the surgery and a healthier lifestyle. But then he got stuck because his excess skin was keeping him from losing any more fat. Now, a few weeks after his skin removal surgery, Paul is recovering and even taking walks with his babe of a fiancée, Rebecca. It's a well-deserved celebration, considering this is the exact type of surgery Paul had to go through. The 54-year-old says his weight loss journey isn't over and that he wants to keep working toward a sustainable life with Rebecca.
Peruvian doctors use basil to lure worm out of a boy's eye. Doctors in Peru successfully used basil leaves to lure a worm out of a teenage boy's eye. A 17-year-old Peruvian boy suffered an eye infection reportedly after being bitten by a human botfly, which drops its eggs when it lands on the skin. Following the bite, his left eye was extremely swollen for several weeks. An MRI scan revealed the 3-centimeter long larva taking residence inside his eye. The location of the worm was close to the part known as the danger triangle of the face, meaning the infection could easily spread to the brain. Doctors first used a piece of basil leaf to lure the larva from its burrow before removing the rest of it using tweezers. The boy is expected to make a full recovery.
Boy receives surgery to remove massive tumor. After a 2-year journey seeking treatment in the US, an 11-year-old Mexican boy finally received surgery to remove a tumor that took over the left side of his body. The boy was brought to New Mexico in 2012 with assistance from the First Baptist Church of Rio Rancho, whose missionaries first met the boy in Ciudad Juarez. For a while, doctors gave the boy Viagra. Huh? Apparently, the same ingredients that give Grandpa a boner also help reduce the size of tumors in children. Although the tumor wasn't cancerous and the oral medication was working to shrink the tumor, surgery was still recommended as the best option for the boy. After a 12-hour operation involving 25 medical professionals, the boy is now recovering at the University of New Mexico Children's Hospital.
An Australian man has developed a grotesque hernia-like growth following several failed operations after he ingested a suspected stomach bug. When 59-year-old John McDonald dropped his beer into the water during a fishing trip on the Brisbane River, he didn't think twice about snatching it out and taking a swig. Perhaps he should have. 3 hours later, he became violently ill. A week later, friends convinced him to go to hospital, where he underwent several unsuccessful operations to fight a growing infection. Shortly afterward, he slipped into a coma and was expected to die. But he came through with one horrific complication: a giant and grossly infected stomach. Parasites abound in fresh water, and McDonald believes one caused his illness. He has been told that he'll need at least another 6 operations before he is well again.
Woman has surgery to have 30-pound bowling ball boobs removed. A woman who had some 30-pound fake jugs put into her chest was told by several plastic surgeons that it would be impossible to remove the enormous implants, has finally had them taken out. Dee Stein from Las Vegas made a trip to Los Angeles to meet with plastic surgeons Paul Nassif and Terry Dubrow to see if they could help her get something off her chest. Dee had older double lumen implants put in 20 years ago, with an internal lumen comprised of silicone and an external lumen that was filled with saline. Dee got her first pair of confidence builders when she was stripping to provide for her son. She eventually got them pumped up to a ridiculous 3,000 cc's. Dr. Dubrow explained that it appeared like the saline part of the outside of her left breast ruptured, causing it to deflate and leak saline throughout her body. During the first part of the surgery, Dubrow took out the gargantuan implants and was lucky enough to find a fungus ball growing in one of them. After getting rid of all the excess skin, Dr. Dubrow put in a new pair of D-sized jugs for Dee. She now feels confident again. That is, until these new implants start leaking too. But hey, who cares? Going under the knife to boost your confidence is definitely the way to go.
Broken penis trend, #broken penis trend, makes it to Ireland. Following the breaking of his penis, Irishman Alan Park endured the most agonizing pain of his life, emergency surgery, 2 months of bedridden recovery, and the mockery of friends and random strangers. We'll let Alan tell his story in his own voice that is absolutely not his own voice.
Clarissa and I were just having a little fun with her on top when all of a sudden I heard something snap. I'd never known pain like this. Excruciating. Clarissa is there in the bedroom trying to calm me down. Because I'm jumping around screaming so loud, the neighbours think there's some kind of murder going on next door. At the hospital, doctors said I needed emergency surgery. They actually put me willy in a sling, like for a broken arm. Lads in the ER were laughing at me, and hospital security had to stop me from doing something I would have regretted. This one guy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, he just kept laughing and laughing, wanted to punch his lights out, I did. There was so much blood, fountains of blood. In the first 2 weeks after going home, I had to call the ambulance 7 times because it started bleeding and wouldn't stop. Later on, the hospital started sending a nurse to change the dressing. Talk about destroying your nurse fetish fantasies.
Girlfriend Clarissa Carnes, 22, says it took close to 3 months before Alan could play with his lucky leprechaun, but both she and Alan expect to return to full-on fantastic fornication with his fully healed diehard.
Trees. They can be so sexy. Those strong, hard trunks, those turgid branches, those soft, inviting leaves. But unless you have a tail, you're probably better off not getting tailed in a tree, or you might have to learn a lesson the hard way. Our saga begins when Eric and Selena, two American nature lovers/lovebirds on their third date, decided to go out on a limb and shag in a tree. Now, trees are made out of wood, and wood is where splinters come from. And yep, one thing led to another. Feeling a prick in his rear, Eric lost his grip and tumbled to the ground. Manhood first. Eric seemed unhurt, but then girlfriend Selena noticed that his package had sprung a leak, and not the good kind. Eric had to be treated at a hospital for a broken penis, which is a real thing, unfortunately. Go on, Google it. Eric has now made a full recovery and is back in the saddle. Selena, however, says she now hates nature, so we're guessing that skydiving sex session is probably a no-go. Moral of the story, it's cool to get aroused by nature, be it trees, vegetables, fruit, cacti, or even just mounds of earth. But most of the time, the Big Bang is better at home, next to the fire, with some Barry White music on. Oh yeah. Yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
Mine worker miraculously survives after being impaled. A mine worker in South Africa survived after being impaled by a 6-foot metal rod while working in an underground mine shaft. On January 10th at 3 p.m., Daniel DeWitt was working in one of Sibanye Gold's mines 3.5 kilometers underground. At around 3:15 p.m., he was using an instrument called a gaula to unblock a drain that had been clogged by mud. The instrument is 1.8 meters long and about 2.5 centimeters in diameter. It is sharp on one end and blunt on the other. At around 3:35 p.m., DeWitt's foot slipped, and the gaula went through his legs, penetrated his body, and came out his back below his left shoulder blade. At 3:47, emergency crews secured him to a stretcher. The helicopter then transported him to Netcare Mill Park Hospital. At 6:34 p.m., he underwent surgery. 19 days later, and minus his left kidney, DeWitt was able to walk again and was discharged from hospital. DeWitt is already back on duty, working with the rescue team, putting out fires and unblocking muddy dams.